Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
And before we get into anything else today, if you are as obsessed with the game as we are, make sure you hit that subscribe button to Rugby Obsession so you never miss a deep dive into the sport we all love.
Highly recommend it. We've got a lot of ground to cover today.
We really do. So today, our mission is to explore what I'd call a structural paradigm shift within the landscape of global rugby.
Yeah, it's a big one.
We're examining the remarkable culture of tactical innovation and the grassroots pipeline currently operating within South African rugby. And our framework for this discussion is this deeply insightful piece published on February 26, 2026.
Right, in Rugby 365.
Exactly. Written by John Cardinelli, and it features a really wide-ranging interview with Paul Roos head coach Corné Uys.
It's an essential piece of journalism to unpack, honestly, primarily because it captures the internal mechanics of a system that is currently experiencing just unrivaled supremacy.
Unrivaled is the word.
I mean, when we analyze South African rugby at this moment, we are looking at an ecosystem that is firing on every conceivable cylinder. The Springboks have obviously secured back-to-back World Cups.
Yep.
And in the process, they've fundamentally altered their historical approach to the game. But simultaneously, the developmental pipeline is producing insane results. You just look at the junior box claiming the 2025 Junior World Championship.
Right.
The underlying question Cardinelli's piece really gets at is how this machine maintains such ruthless efficiency from the schoolboy level all the way to the international arena.
And to truly understand that efficiency, we have to look at an incident that, for me, perfectly encapsulates this new era of South African rugby.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
You know the one?
Wow.
Last year, the Springboks played Italy in a test match in Cape Town, down at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium.
Yeah.
During that game, Rassie Erasmus introduces this highly unorthodox midfield maul.
So strange to see at first.
Right. And they executed it twice, and it directly engineered 2 Springbok tries. It was just this brilliant manipulation of the Italian defensive line.
But post-match presser.
Yes. The most revealing part of that entire sequence came during the post-match press conference. Erasmus just openly admits to the media that the maneuver wasn't synthesized in some elite Springbok think tank.
No.
He had seen it executed by the Paul Roos under-14B schoolboy team months prior, and he just simply adopted it for the national side.
Which is that admission is arguably more significant than the tactic itself.
I totally agree.
Because it completely dismantles the traditional hierarchy of rugby coaching. If you analyze the structural implications of that, it demonstrates that the Springbok Brain Trust is actively auditing all tiers of the domestic game.
They're watching everything.
Everything. They aren't exclusively reviewing URC or Champions Cup footage. They are scrutinizing under 14B team tape. And they're doing it with genuine analytical intent.
Which is wild.
There is zero ego involved. If a teenage schoolboy and his local coach devise a method to manipulate a defensive system, a back-to-back World Cup winning management team is pragmatic enough to integrate it into their international playbook.
But how does borrowing plays from children square with the traditional, hypermasculine Springbok identity we've known for decades?
It's a clash, for sure.
Historically, the rest of the world looked at South Africa and anticipated a very specific, rigid tactical blueprint.
The physical dominance.
Exactly. It was built almost entirely on the sheer size of their pack, uncompromising collision dominance, and a highly structured, risk-averse kicking game. Just beat you up and pin you back.
Right, which requires a complete ideological pivot now.
Yeah.
The old subdue and penetrate model was highly effective, yes, but it was also incredibly predictable.
Yeah.
Defenses at the international level have just become too sophisticated to simply be overpowered phase after phase for 80 minutes.
You need a crowbar, not just a sledgehammer.
Exactly. And what Rassie Erasmus recognized, and what this under-14B story illustrates so perfectly, is that physical dominance must be married to cognitive unpredictability. He has essentially decentralized the creative process. By adopting that play, Erasmus sent a clear signal to every coach in the South African ecosystem. He's saying innovation is actively encouraged and rewarded, regardless of your status within the coaching hierarchy.
And that tactical breakdown is fascinating when you consider the actual mechanics of a midfield maul.
Oh, let's get into it.
Because in modern phase play structures, the 10, 12, 13 channel is almost universally utilized for rapid distribution.
Right.
Or committing hard crash runners to generate quick front football.
Get over the gain line fast.
Right. So attempting to artificially manufacture a maul in open play far away from the safety of the touchline It fundamentally disrupts the opposition's defensive line speed.
It's a calculated disruption. Because a traditional defensive line is conditioned to press hard. They want to initiate contact behind the gain line against standard midfield variations. But when the attacking team suddenly binds into a dynamic maul, it instantly neutralizes that line speed.
You can't just tackle them all.
Exactly. It forces the defense to commit multiple bodies to halt the momentum, which immediately creates numerical mismatches on the wider channels. And Corné Uys makes a crucial distinction in the article regarding this.
About the circus tricks.
Yes. He emphasizes that this modern creative license isn't an excuse for unstructured, high-risk rugby. He specifically notes that they aren't utilizing circus tricks.
It's not the barbarians.
Right. Every unconventional play must be a calculated mechanism designed to maximize attacking opportunities and manipulate very specific defensive frameworks.
And that calculated approach is clearly filtering down. Uys correctly points out that the entire South African rugby landscape looks entirely different today than it did a decade ago. And he attributes that shift directly to the environment Erasmus has cultivated.
I'd actually argue it goes beyond just the environment. It's becoming a shared tactical language. Well, when the national coach champions innovation like that, it empowers a coach like Uys at Paul Roos to implement complex, non-traditional attacking shapes. And he can do it without the fear of internal criticism if a high-risk play breaks down.
That makes sense.
It creates this massive feedback loop. The national team inspires the grassroots level to experiment, and the grassroots level generates raw tactical concepts that eventually filter back up to the national squad.
Which makes this the perfect moment to throw a question over to you, the listener.
First,
if you're enjoying this level of tactical analysis, please take a second to subscribe to Rugby Obsession. But I also really want your perspective in the comments below.
Yeah, we'd love to hear this.
What do you think about world champion coaches stealing plays from 14-year-olds? Does this decentralized approach to innovation exist in other high-performance environments you follow? Or is this uniquely tied to the current Springbok culture? Drop your thoughts in the comments, as your insights always add great depth to these discussions.
Exploring that cultural aspect is really vital to understanding the pipeline here. When you read Corné Uys' perspective, his humility is just striking.
It really is.
I mean, he has been at the helm of Paul Roos for 4 seasons now, and Paul Roos is historically one of the most prestigious rugby programs on the globe, yet he refers to schools coaches as, quote, just a cog in the machine.
Just a cog.
That phrase speaks volumes about the collective mindset underpinning South African rugby right now.
It's a remarkably understated way to describe a system that is actively producing the athletes currently dominating the global stage.
It is. But it aligns perfectly with the cultural weight the sport carries in the country. Uys notes that in South Africa, rugby isn't just a sport. It is woven deeply into the social fabric.
You hear that great quote in the piece?
Right. He said you can't go to a braai without someone bringing out a ball.
I love that.
It's a communal language that transcends socioeconomic boundaries there. And when a sport has that level of deep-rooted cultural penetration, the developmental pathway benefits from an incredibly broad and passionate base.
Everybody is invested.
Exactly. The coaches at the schoolboy level don't view themselves as isolated entities trying to build personal empires. They view themselves as custodians of a national asset. They are literally preparing players for the next phase of the Springbok machine.
And the article touches on that unifying power quite profoundly. Uys draws a historical parallel that carries immense socio-political weight.
The 1995 comparison?
Yes. He highlights the current national fervor for the game and compares it directly to 1995. We are all deeply familiar with how Nelson Mandela utilized the Springbok emblem during that 1995 World Cup to forge a sense of unity in a very fractured nation.
Right.
Uys argues that Rassie Erasmus has achieved something remarkably similar with this current iteration of the Springbok squad.
That is an incredibly potent comparison to make. The 1995 World Cup remains the benchmark for how sport can influence a nation's socio-political landscape. To place the current Springbok environment in that same echelon, it suggests that the team's success is fueled by much more than just tactical superiority.
It's emotional, it's cultural.
Absolutely. Erasmus has meticulously engineered a squad that authentically represents the demographics of the nation. They play with this uniquely South African blend of joy and unapologetic brutality.
A great way to put it.
And they consistently deliver under immense pressure. So when a grassroots coach like Uys says he is proud to be a cog in that machine, He is acknowledging that developing these young players is a contribution to a much larger unifying national project.
And having that shared vision makes the transition from the schoolboy field to the international stage operate at an incredibly accelerated pace.
The speed is terrifying.
If we analyze the trajectory of the specific players highlighted in the source material, the speed of development is staggering. Let's look closely at Riley Norton.
Great example.
In 2024, he anchors a Paul Roos side that achieves a flawless 15-goal season in what is arguably one of the most demanding schoolboy leagues in the world.
Without a doubt.
By 2025, just months later, he is named captain of the junior box and leads them to the Junior World Championship title in Italy.
The cognitive and physical leap required to make that transition in under 12 months cannot be overstated.
It's massive.
We are talking about moving from a domestic schoolboy calendar to navigating international phase play structures, elite collision dominance, and the intense scrutiny of a global tournament.
Against 20-year-olds.
Right. You simply cannot execute that leap seamlessly unless your high school program was already operating at a near-professional standard. Norton's rapid ascension is undeniable proof that the environment Corné Uys and his staff have established at Paul Roos is perfectly aligned with the high-performance demands of the South African national setup.
And the thing is, Norton's trajectory isn't an anomaly within this current cycle. The pipeline is overflowing with similar developmental leaps.
They're everywhere.
The article specifically names Marcus Muller from Paarl Gym, Ethan Adams from Grey College, and Kai Pratt from Oakdale. All three have recently transitioned out of the schoolboy circuit and are currently integrated into the South African under-20 side touring Georgia.
Taking that a step further, the most revealing detail regarding talent acceleration isn't just their inclusion in the under-20s. Cardinelli's article notes that Marcus Muller, Kai Pratt, and Riley Norton are all scheduled to attend a senior Springbok alignment camp next week. That aggressive timeline is highly intriguing. It bypasses the traditional developmental bottleneck entirely.
Bringing players who were literally on a high school pitch less than 24 months ago directly into an alignment camp with the back-to-back World Cup winning coaching staff, I mean, that is a massive statement of intent.
It fundamentally changes how we view talent identification.
What actually happens at these alignment camps?
Well, an alignment camp is designed to immerse players in the Springbok culture. It's to familiarize them with the defensive frameworks, the attacking terminology, and the really uncompromising physical expectations of the senior squad.
So it's heavily theoretical and cultural.
Exactly. By integrating these young athletes immediately, SA Rugby is ensuring that when injuries occur or positional transitions are required in the senior squad down the line, the next generation is already fluent in the Springbok playbook.
They aren't learning it from scratch?
Right. They aren't waiting for a player to reach their mid-20s to begin their tactical education. If you possess the raw attributes and have been forged in this high-innovation schoolboy system, you are fast-tracked into the inner sanctum.
Which means that aggressive talent integration casts the upcoming 2026 school season in an entirely different light.
Oh, totally.
When you watch these domestic fixtures, you are effectively watching an audition for the senior national squad. The article highlights that the 2026 school season officially commences this weekend, with heavyweights like Grey College engaging in competitive fixtures in Bloemfontein.
The commencement of the schoolboy season in South Africa is treated with the reverence of a professional league, and rightfully so. It commands significant media coverage and intense analytical scrutiny. If we narrow our focus specifically to Paul Roos, their early season schedule is an absolute gauntlet.
Let's hear it.
They open their campaign against Rassie in Stellenbosch on March 13th.
Okay.
Just 8 days later, on March 21st, they host Affies.
Wow.
Facing a program with the pedigree and physical intensity of the Affies that early in the season is a brutal stress test for any squad's set-piece stability and defensive organization.
And the internal narrative surrounding this specific Paul Roos squad adds a really compelling layer to those upcoming fixtures. We discussed Riley Norton leading them to an unbeaten 15-0 record and the unofficial #1 national ranking in 2024.
The perfect season.
Right. However, their 2025 campaign required a completely different level of resilience. They contested 17 matches, securing 12 victories and sustaining 5 losses.
And those were tough losses.
Very tough. Those defeats weren't against mid-tier opposition. They dropped games in heavyweight encounters against Paarl Gym, Paarl Boys, Oakdale, Affies, and Grey College.
I mean, that fixture list is essentially a miniature international schedule.
That's brutal.
It is physically and emotionally exhausting for a teenager. Navigating a season against the absolute elite of South African schoolboy rugby means there are no rotational weekends. There are no opportunities to hide tactical deficiencies.
You get exposed quickly.
Instantly. And in his interview, Uys demonstrates an excellent developmental perspective regarding that 2025 season. He acknowledges the natural desire to replicate a perfect season like 2024, but he emphasizes his immense pride in the squad's performance throughout 2025.
He sees the value in the grind.
Yes. It is a mature, high-performance mindset. He understands that genuine player development and systemic resilience are forged in high-pressure losses against elite opposition just as much as they are in blowout victories.
Looking ahead to how they manage that grueling schedule in 2026, Uys is highly optimistic about their squad composition. He specifically highlights the retention of their core spine.
Crucial fact.
It's huge. Heading into this new campaign, their hooker, both locks, their blindside flank, their halfbacks, and their inside center all have extensive experience operating within the first XV setup during that demanding 2025 season.
From a tactical standpoint, returning a spine with that level of battle-tested experience provides an immense strategic advantage, particularly in those early rounds.
Break that down for us. Why that specific spine?
Well, in modern rugby, if your hooker and locks are already cohesive, your set-piece stability is effectively guaranteed. You have a reliable platform to launch phase play strikes.
The lineout is secure.
Exactly. Then, having a seasoned blindside flank ensures your collision dominance and breakdown efficiency on the gain line.
They're doing the dirty work.
Right. But perhaps most critically, retaining experienced halfbacks and a veteran inside center, your number 12, means your game management, tactical kicking execution, and primary defensive organization are already operating at an advanced level.
The decision makers are all veterans.
Yes. That spine provides a foundation of absolute steel against aggressive packs like Affies or Parle Jim.
And Uys points out that this veteran foundation will be augmented by the introduction of fresh, highly dynamic younger players. It is the ideal high-performance ecosystem. The experienced core dictates the tempo and maintains the structural integrity of the defensive line, allowing the younger athletes the freedom to operate with instinct and attacking flair.
Precisely. And if we synthesize everything we have analyzed today, from the mandate for tactical innovation handed down by Rassie Erasmus, to the profound cultural motivation driving these athletes, to the strategic advantage of Paul Roos's returning veteran spine, it leads to a very distinct expectation for this season.
Which is?
When a coach of Corné Uys' caliber possesses a stable, experienced platform, that is the exact scenario where he can afford to really exploit the playbook.
Ah, I see.
I would strongly predict that in high-stakes encounters, particularly their upcoming clash against Affies on March 21st, we will see Paul Roos execute highly creative, unconventional faceplay structures. They have the systemic permission to innovate, and they have the personnel to execute it under pressure.
It fundamentally changes the viewing experience for me now. Knowing that a complex line-out variation or an unorthodox midfield strike executed in Stellenbosch by high schoolers could theoretically be the exact tactical blueprint the Springboks utilize to break open a crucial test match later in the international calendar. It's a fascinating reality.
It really connects the whole ecosystem.
It reinforces the premise that elite innovation is entirely agnostic to age, tier, or traditional hierarchy. A brilliant concept is simply a brilliant concept, regardless of its origin.
It's a valid point, and I think it leaves us with a critical, broader concept to analyze as we wrap up today.
Let's hear it.
We have spent this deep dive deconstructing how a back-to-back World Cup winning management team possesses the intellectual humility to adopt tactical maneuvers from an under-14B schoolboy side. It demands a moment of self-reflection from all of us.
Outside of rugby, even.
Exactly. In your own professional environment or your own area of expertise, where might you be dismissing highly effective innovations simply because of the source? Are you ignoring a paradigm-shifting concept just because it was proposed by an intern or a junior team member, rather than an established executive? It forces us to ask, does a rigid adherence to traditional hierarchy actually serve as the greatest barrier to true innovation?
That is an exceptional question to close on. Does our reliance on hierarchy blind us to true innovation? We highly value your perspective, so please drop your thoughts and opinions on that final provocative concept in the comments below. We read every single one.
We really do. Love seeing the debates in there.
And of course, if you found value in today's analysis, make sure you hit subscribe to Rugby Obsession so we can continue bringing you these detailed insights into the tactical and cultural shifts defining the sport. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.